go. One thing you can do is, as we just started and you were holding your cards and I said, oh, you got your cards. Why don't you pull a card for us? And then you went into the explanation of, well, I'm trying to reconnect. And that's a perfect opportunity for you to, when I said, hey, pull a card for us, do that. And that will help you start shifting again. And then we'll talk about connecting with your guides. So give us a card, please. I feel like I'm really washing out. I'm going to see if I can help that a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Mm.
Okay. Apparently, my hand did not want to let go of these cards. I thought it was one, but it's two. I have
Okay, good.
And I have the King of Pentacles. Obviously, I love the Sun because it's such a bright, happy aspect to receive. But King of Pentacles is somebody who's very secure with money. In this particular card, he's got gray hair. He's got it looks like a wolf. So to me, at least reading from this card, from what I'm seeing, it's an older gentleman, but it's someone who has mastered, who is wise. With the wolf is, I feel like the wolf is part of wisdom, but someone who's mastered money, security, and I am seeing, I feel it's money matters. Like the sun is illuminating a path or some form of avenue where some flow of cash is going to come in. And whatever, and I know it's a generic question, I guess, is what I'm asking, like, hey, just, pull me a message, give me a message, right? But I'm thinking of whatever that stream of income is going to come from, whether that be your side hustle, whether that be from selling essential oils of some sort. The sun is telling me that this is an illuminated path that I need to explore, because with the King of Pentacles, it's going to provide some form of monetary stability, legacy, that security, because I do have, I hate to admit it, but I have money security. And so maybe it's a block of abundance, of a money block that I have in me, that I need to somehow like release so the sun can shine and make way for the money.
That is fantastic. I love your interpretation. And, I'm not really familiar with tarot cards. I only know them very peripherally. So I really appreciate that you dug in and you knew what the cards meant. And, I said, would you pull a card for us for Woo Wednesday? And that's what came up. And so it's for everybody who sees this, past, present, future. And, it's just like when I do a card reading of any kind, then I will say, this is for you whenever you may see it, because that's the way it works. You get what you get when you get it and when you're supposed to get it. So I love that you pulled that, and thank you for that. I wanted to say that is very meaningful to me. That I am very much on the verge of more money. And I love that that is what's going on for me right now. So I'm going to pay attention to what path lights up, because I may not know what it is consciously. So I love that. And that's also kind of a good overall for less experienced people than yourself who knows tarot cards, for other people to hear that and go, oh, so that's for me. Oh, well, what does that mean for me? And to understand a little more about how readings work. So that was really helpful. And I appreciate you being part of this. Can I have your permission to just cut a clip out of this and share it with other people?
Oh, Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'll
Uh,
I'll spread that far and wide. That's awesome. Okay. Let me make a little note to do that. Share the clip of Allison. Also, that shows how, magnanimous I am by sharing the spotlight, right?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and so that brings to something else to mind because of what you said about wanting to feel reconnected and assuming that it would come back when you were more, more ready to tune in and able to tune in. So I had planned to talk about putting your Bruniverse to work for you, but since this came up, I always go with spirit. Hi, Selassie, welcome. I always go with spirit and go with what needs to be talked about and done. So we're going to start talking about connecting with your spirit guides, feeling connected with spirit and in the flow of the energy. Because it is, like I told you earlier, it is always there. Your guides don't step back. You're either listening to them or you're not. You're either feeling them or you're not. But it's not that they would ever take a back seat and keep quiet. They're always going to be trying to reach you with the best that they've got for you. And that's just how it's set up to be. That's their job. And even if they have other people that they guide for, which not everybody on your team should be doing that, you should have probably at least one. Hi, Selassie. She's in the office, so she can't just be blah blah blah. So I want to talk a little bit about that. One of the things that I do in destiny coaching, even in the workshops and what have you, is help people to meet their spirit guides because you wouldn't believe how many people really don't. I say you wouldn't believe. Those of us who are naturally intuitive and have always kind of been tuned in, and then when we have some sort of revelation of, hey, this I'm your guide, I'm your angel, I'm somebody who's here to help you, and my name is. People who haven't had that experience, it's not obvious to them. It's not easy to them. So we walk through an exercise of just doing the micro meditation, which, as you probably know, is the 3 deep breaths. And during those 3 deep breaths, you think about, I call on my angels and guides, as well as all those who have my best interest at heart. As you focus on that thought, you can repeat it with each breath, whatever works for you. And then sit still and quiet with your eyes closed and see what comes up. So that micro meditation that I just mentioned is a great way to set the reset but push the reset button, but it's also a really good way to start getting centered and focused if you're going to meditate, if you're going into an interview, if you are preparing to meet with a client and do a card reading for them, if you're going to do a card reading for yourself. All of that, use that micro meditation. And of course, I do it before every reading. I do it pretty much every day. I do it before the Woo Wednesday. I mean, this is something that I've always done or I've done for many years. That helps me to just take a moment to center and put the powers that be on alert that I am opening up and I'm calling them in. And the reason that I say it exactly that way, I call on my angels and guides, as well as all those who have my best interest at heart. There's 2 reasons about those who have my best interest at heart. One is that I don't know if maybe my grandpa wants to come join in on the guidance today.
Mm.
But also, I don't say anything about those who don't have my best interest at heart. I'm not saying you're not invited unless you have love. You're not excluding anything that would be off or what some people might think of as dark energy. You're not excluding that. You're just not including it. So we say that very specifically. Call on my angels and guides and all those who have my best interest at heart. Also, there could be other non-physical entities who want to come and help you that you don't even know or that you don't know about, or they may not be angels. They may not be people who used to be people. They may be some other kind of energy, and you want all the help you can get always. Okay, so that's what that's about. So you start with the micro meditation and then sit quietly with your journal in front of you and set that intention of, I want to know my guides, how about one of you come forward and say hello, tell me who you are. And what I find usually happens with my clients when they do this exercise, and I have them do it separate from me. We don't do it together. I don't want to influence them at all. And I'm trying to think of a time this didn't happen. At our next session, then they'll say, oh, yeah, okay, so I met two, or I met one, or, well, it was kind of weird, but they seem to show up like they look like maybe they're like a cowboy. I'm like, okay, let's go with that. You don't have to have any rules, restrictions. The first time I met one of my guides, and she's kind of my main one, she showed up in like a cloak with the covering like this, and was really sort of more just kind of a robe of light. And her face was kind of like my mother's, kind of like mine, pale white face with black skin, black hair. And so that was, and I met her in a dream. So it was obviously a visit, a vision of this. And it was long before I knew really who I was and what I was capable of. Um, so that seems to me like sort of a more expected traditional image of who your guardian angel would be. If it's not Archangel Michael with a sword, then it's going to be a lady in a cloak of light, right? But my clients come up with all kinds of things. One saw somebody who looked like a fairy, and I was like, great, fairy energy is fantastic. Another one, she came up with two female energy guides, and names. And I don't remember if she described them, but I think her description was that they were sort of very human-like. They seemed very human. So you can let come in what comes in, and don't dismiss it as your imagination, no matter how expected or unexpected it might appear to you. Take that what it is, and take it at face value and go, oh, wow. So I've got this cowboy named Dave. Great. Okay. I don't know anything about cowboys. Why do I have a cowboy? That's fine. Doesn't mean that Dave isn't a fantastic guide for you. I also want to talk a little bit about this book that I read a while back. My husband and I read together. I read to him. He loves to be read aloud to. I love to read aloud. It works out really well. And we've read all kinds of things. We both read separately as well, because there are some things that he doesn't like a lot of stuff that I read, and vice versa. So we read this book called Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. And Michael Newton is a psychologist, and he wrote of his experiences with his patients in deep hypnosis for regression. Now, you've heard of past life regression. I've had it done many times. I've found a lot of my past lives that way, which is very, very cool experience. And I do recommend it. Oh, and by the way, I have a new friend who does past life readings. And I have always said the best way to remember your past lives is to get hypnotized and be regressed for it. And I have never done past life readings because there are too many people who offer past life readings who say you were, Genghis Khan, or you were the Queen of Sheba, or you were Mary Magdalene, or you were this or that. And it's like, we can't all have been these big famous figures throughout history. It just doesn't make sense. There are 8 billion people on this planet. We were not all the Queen of Sheba, right? We were not Elizabeth I. We can't all have been Shakespeare. It's just not possible. So, and it doesn't make any sense, because it's like, well, if you were just somebody famous, then what else have you learned? What else have you experienced? And so my past lives that I've recalled in hypnosis or in dreams or otherwise, have almost all been ordinary people, but there were different experiences throughout each one. And so that's about past lives. Okay. So there is a book about past lives. My friend who does the past life readings, I'm getting ahead of myself. Pardon me for being ADHD. And that's legit. I'm not just, like making it up. So my friend Debbie Barker is the one who does past life readings. And this is what's really cool. So many people that I know who are woo practitioners of different kinds have all kinds of modalities and training and things that they've learned how to do. And I really believe that you probably couldn't do those things if you didn't have a natural intuitive talent in order to become good at that, to be a Reiki practitioner, to be a tarot card reader. Um, I'm a natural reader, which means I don't need any tools. And I have not studied anything at length except just my own work and what comes to me naturally. So it's really cool for me to meet other people who have developed and worked on skills that go with their intuitive talents. So Debbie Barker does past life readings. That's one of the things that she does. She is the international healer's healer, which I think is super cool. And she does do Reiki, but she also just talks about working with energy. She's an energy healer. She works with energy in ways of like just tuning in, which I think is so awesome. She told us a story this morning at the networking group. And if you're a woo practitioner and you want to network with some awesome women, it's every Wednesday morning at 9. You can hit me up for the link to sign up for that. I'm sorry, 9 Central Time. It's 10 Eastern, and that would be 4 p.m. UK time. So, so Debbie was telling me a story about this morning. She told us a story about how she had a conflict with a friend. And she said they were just having a struggle, a difficult time. And she said, so I just, I went to the energy and I could see these cords of anger between the two of us, tied to both of us. And so I called in Archangel Michael and he severed the cords. And then I said, can you pull them out by the roots? And so he did. And the next time I talked to her, everything was fine and we were getting along great. I was like, this is the coolest damn thing because it's not a specific modality. Although she did mention Archangel Michael, and see, I'm not a big believer in archangels, but whatever works. And I know that the energy of the Archangel Michael, it exists, whether there's some guy out there with wings and a sword and shield or not. Doesn't matter. The energy is the same. So she was talking about like that. I was thinking about, I do that. I have always done that. I have always looked at the energy of things. I've always talked to inanimate objects. Okay, getting carried away. Past lives. Let's get back to past lives. There's another book that I read years ago that I love and recommend. It's called Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss, also a psychologist who hypnotized his patients and for past life regression. And it was just like On a Clear Day You Can See Forever, which is an old movie, um, starring Barbara Streisand. And that it was a situation in which a woman was regressed, and it was like fairly common, I think, for psychologists and therapists to use hypnosis to say, go back to where this trauma started, thinking you're 2 years old, or it was when you were born, or you're 5, or whatever. And this patient went back to a whole different life and became another person. So that's what Many Lives, Many Masters is about. It's about past lives. And for him, he had lost a son. For Dr. Weiss, he had lost a son, and that helped him so much with life and love and how life after death continues, and we see each other again and so forth. So in the book, now coming to Journey of Souls from Dr. Newton, he regressed his patients with their permission into really deep hypnosis to go back to life between lives. And that's why it's called Journey of Souls. And everything in it, this is, I think this is what a lot of people want to know is what happens. I mean, even if they don't believe in reincarnation, what happens after you die, right? We all want to know what happens after you die. And so the experiences that all of his patients had in life between lives was all but identical. Everybody went through very similar experience with sort of decompressing and debriefing from the life they just had, what they experienced, how they felt. Did they meet the goals that they had planned going into that life? And there was a lot of talk about their guides, their spirit guides, most of whom were more advanced human souls. And there was a little talk about other species on other planets and other places and you know different things that they do. So that got kind of complicated. But basically, we are guided by people who have done more than we've done, who've had more experience than we've had. And likewise, we guide others. And some of those guides who are in sort of in our cohort, and I had read years ago that souls tend to travel in packs, meaning that that's why we recognize people in our life. When we meet them for the first time, we're like, you seem really familiar, and then you hit it off, or you hate each other. That's a past life connection. And I've had so many of those that I can't separate the concept of having known them before from the idea that I couldn't possibly have. So those are who our guides generally are. Now, I also understand that there is a different kind of energy that I call an angelic soul. And angelic souls, and those would be angels, but they also sometimes incarnate as humans. And so usually angelic souls come in for a real purpose. Sometimes it's just to change lives or moments for one or two or few people. But usually angelic souls have a broader purpose. Like I met a woman who I did a reading I was doing dinner in a psychic show. So we're in a restaurant and there was a group and she was sitting at the end of the table. I couldn't see her from here down. And I looked at her and I said, okay, you have an angelic soul. And do you know you're pregnant? And she was like, yeah. And she leaned back and she was like 5, 6 months along. And I said, okay. And you also have a heart condition. She said, yeah. And I said, okay, so this is your purpose because your heart condition is rare. I mean, she was a young woman. She was pregnant. Your heart condition is rare. And you came into this life to help doctors and scientists to understand your condition better, to help other people. And so this is the kind of thing now, like I said, natural reader, this just downloaded to me as I was looking at her. But this is the kind of thing that angelic souls tend to do. They tend to have short human lives because of that, because they're not here to have the human experience like the rest of us. They're here to help humanity. And so that doesn't mean that everybody who dies young was an angelic soul, but I see that a lot. And I realized that the the more important, the younger a person dies, the more important work they have to do on the other side. And so that kind of meshes well with the concept of the angelic souls. Okay, back to your spirit guides. I do recommend that book. It will help you understand about spirit guides a lot better. But with my clients, even though I recommend that book, you don't have to read it to tune into your guides at all. You don't have to do anything except just be open and ask. Now, Allison, you mentioned that you've been feeling disconnected and you were trying to get reconnected and you were kind of about to throw in the towel and say, it's okay, I'm just all up in my, masculine energy stuff. And once I get past that particular, you know, time in my life, that season of my life, then the connection will come back. And, you know, which is fine. And I explained to you, and now I'll say to everybody else that they're never gone. They're never gone. And this is throughout Christianity and probably Judaism and probably every culture. There's always a story of someone feeling disconnected from God or like they've been forsaken, right? Which means left. left behind. That's why you say this is a God-forsaken place, you know, meaning God has left it behind. He's given up on it. And so there's always that story. And that there have been lots and lots of people who have experienced what they would call the dark night of the soul, where they feel like God has abandoned them. And whether you call it God or spirit or energy or whatever you call it doesn't ever go away. It's just you feeling a disconnect, but it's not on that entity. It's on you. Doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It just means that you are feeling disconnected and disappointed, and you're actually just out of alignment with your own soul. So when your consciousness and your spirit, your essence, uh, start getting disconnected, it means you're just too thinky. You're just too thinky, and you need to feel and to get back in touch. Do that micro meditation and then sit and be and just feel and wait for something to come. If it doesn't come the first time you do it again. If it doesn't come the second time, do it again. And that is how we always align with spirit and with our guides and with our higher selves. Does that all make sense? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now we come to the time in Woo Wednesdays when we would do hot seat coaching. So Lassie can't talk. And I pretty much spent this whole lecture talking to you, Allison. So I want to just say, Allison, do you have any questions? Or Selassie, do you want to put a question in the chat? I'm looking over at the chat now. Cute. Okay. You have a question. All right. So Lassie has a question. She said, I have a QQ. And then she said, well, not quick, meaning quick question. Okay. I thought you just typed two Qs to mean question. I don't know, you young people's lingo. A little off topic, that's fine. Bring it. Waiting, waiting. I'll sing to Allison's more. Allison. Elvis Costello, ladies and gentlemen. My aim is true. Yeah, you got to look that song up since it's got your name. Question about hexes. If we're all part of the Bruniverse or the divine collective, doesn't that mean we have the power amongst ourselves to rid them? In Christianity, it's through prayer or sometimes called a higher priest. Interesting. In post-religious practice, I heard of witches lighting candles and doing spells. Is this even necessary? I mean, since we can call on our angels and guides and those who have our best interests at heart, right? I'm so glad that you brought this up. I just saw something on Quora about this a day or two ago, and I didn't weigh in on this because somebody else had answered in a way that I would probably answer. So hexes and curses and so forth. First of all, this is something that I've always cautioned people about if you're seeking a psychic reading or something like that, if you're seeking energy healing or something, and you're not a practitioner yourself. If somebody says to you, if that healer or psychic or whatever says you have a curse on you and you pay me to lift it, that is bullshit. You need to run, do not walk from this person. So hexes are only, yeah, that's good. They only have power if you give them power. I mean, you can find what they call an ill wish. There's an old thing that's like a, sort of like a voodoo doll, but this was more like Celtic tradition, or Gaelic or Druid or whatever. An ill wish, you make an ill wish and you put it under somebody's bed or by their doorstep, and you say, I want bad things to happen to this person, or I want him to, break his arm, whatever that is. So that's called an ill wish, and that's like a witch casting a spell or putting a curse or whatever. And the thing is that, yeah, they're throwing some nasty energy at you, but if you don't accept it, then it has no power. If a person says to you, I cast a spell on you, I put a hex on you, and you are now doomed and cursed, and you'll never, you'll be barren and you'll never bear another child. That only has power if you believe it, just like anything else. Somebody says, I hate you, you're ugly and stupid. It has no power unless you believe it. And I think that is really more of the true hex than somebody casting a spell. The spells that get cast on us by people we meet in our childhood and society in general. When I said, I hate you and you're ugly and stupid, it reminded me, oh, how much do we tell ourselves that we're not pretty, we're not smart, we're not good enough, we're not whatever. That's the hex, because hexes have no power if you do not believe them. Somebody says, I curse you, I spit on you, I spit on your grave, you will die a horrible death. And you go, fuck off. No power. So that's the whole thing about curses. They don't have to be lifted. They just have to be refused. They have to be ignored. Like I said in the beginning about the micro meditation, we're not excluding dark energies. We're just not including them. You don't include a hex, it has no power over you. So that's my whole take on it. Now, let me say this as well, because you know me, I'm so practical and yet so woo. It just meets together. Now, hold on, Alice. So if you want to do a clearing spell or a prayer or call on the higher priest or call in Archangel Michael to cut those anger cords or light a candle, say a prayer or say a spell, releasing things. If you want to burn sage in your house, all of those things are great. Because if it means something to you, it means something to you. It's the same thing as giving power to a curse. If you give power to that sage and you say, burning this sage in every corner of my house will clear it and cleanse it, and I will be free and I will be healed and I will be better. That is true. You ever heard of the placebo effect? It is true. And that's why I say, if it means something to you, it means something to you. If you hear a song on the radio and you think that's my dad reaching out saying hello, then that's what it is. If you see 11:11 on the clock, never mind that your brain is functions as a pattern seeker to keep you safe. It doesn't matter. If that means something to you, it means something to you. Take it seriously and believe it. Okay. All right. Allison, you raised your hand. What's up?
Since we're talking about hexes, giving into the power, is that the same for then psychic attacks? If you feel like you are being psychic attacked, so therefore you feed into where you start to believe, and then all these negative emotions, negative actions start, coming at you. Is it then you also are feeding into the fear, I guess it would be, of being that you're feeling like you're being attacked?
Yeah, same thing. So here's something that has come up, not for a while, but when I've been giving readings, I've given thousands of readings, talked to thousands of dead people. But if somebody says, oh, there's something in my house, or, I woke up and I could just feel this dark energy, blah, blah, blah. So here's what I've always told people. I knew this instinctively, intuitively when I was very young. I used to have a nightmare every once in a while, different nightmares, but there would be a demon or the devil, and I would be scared, and that demon would be coming at me, and I would feel a lot of fear, and I would sometimes shout at them or sometimes just say calmly, God loves you. Jesus loves you. There's only love here. And that demon would go away. And so this is something that I took out of my dreams when I was a kid and extrapolated it into everything else. I don't really believe that there is, I hate to say it, good and evil. There is love and fear. There is love and there is fear. But when you talk about things being good or bad, right or wrong, those are just labels that humans use to feel more in control and organized. Okay. If somebody's if you think somebody is going to attack you psychically, I mean, would you do that to somebody? Would you try to do that? You can only influence somebody else with a quote unquote psychic attack or an ill wish or a voodoo doll or anything to the extent that they believe that they can be influenced by it. And so it's the same thing for you. Everything that, oh, sorry, let me get back to the dark energy. I woke up and there was a ghost or a spirit or a dark, and it was scary. It's the same thing as when a little kid thinks there's a monster under the bed. Maybe there is a monster under the bed. But what you do is you make friends with it, or you speak to it in love, and it will go away. It will transform or go away. Okay. And I could really, really go on and on and on about this. I will not. Um, but yeah, take the psychic attack, speak to it in love, say something like, there is only love here. I am love. In fact, one of my daily affirmation, that I have said every day for years and years and years during Selassie knows it, spray and pray time. That is in the shower in the morning. My daily affirmation is this: I love. I am loved. I am lovable. I am love. Now, does that ward off evil spirits? Well, it wards off evil spirits better than me saying, please, God, keep the evil spirits away from me. Because I'm not talking about evil spirits. I'm talking about love. So there is love and there is fear. And if you sense something in the non-physical, doesn't have to be a ghost. If you sense something that frightens you, and this is really important, that is a manifestation of your own fear. Again, if you believe for any reason that there is something dark and evil out there, and someday it's going to come and get you, then what are the chances that you're going to wake up at night and feel like there's something dark and evil coming to get you? It's a manifestation of your own fear. If you'd never heard of it, it wouldn't happen to you because it's not in your experience. I also hear that during meditation, you can shower yourself in the covering of bright light and love, or a coat of protection. That's from Selassie. I love that. Why not? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of the meditations that I have done, I haven't taught it in a while, but one of them is to put yourself into a bubble of light. Surround yourself with a glowing light. Imagine yourself bathed in healing light, in the light of love. All of those things are very powerful. And why? It's because you're envisioning this thing as being real. And that really does affect your Bruniverse because, and that's what Selassie brought up, your brain and the universe, the energy of the universe, neither one can tell the difference between the truth and a lie. Neither one knows whether you are imagining, experiencing, observing, or remembering, because those functions in your brain are all the same thing. So if you're sitting there imagining yourself bathed in light, you're having the experience of being bathed in light. If you have an experience that is really profound and meaningful, any kind of self-revelation or spiritual experience, or in meditation, maybe you have a real overwhelming sense of connection to all that is. You can use that by remembering it so that you can feel that again. Most of us cannot live in the constant euphoria of that kind of connection, but we can remember it and use it for inspiration, for healing, for remembering that, yes, there is this powerful force and I am a part of it. Ooh, that was preachy. Ooh, that was preachy. Wow. Okay. I apologize for being preachy. But it is profound. It's such a powerful thing to know that you have that kind of power at your disposal. you are part of all that is. There's something I've been thinking about as an analogy for a long time. There was a movie, me and my pop culture, called Phenomenon, and it starred John Travolta, and he is just an ordinary guy in a small town, and he had some sort of thing happen to him. He's just standing in the street going home one night, and he sees this bright light come at him and sort of overwhelms him, and then it goes away. And after that, he keeps getting smarter and smarter. And this theme of an ordinary person getting a superpower has been through so many stories. It's kind of a trope. But what happens to him is he becomes smarter and smarter to the point where he's connecting with all that is. So he has become so well acquainted with quantum physics that it becomes him and he becomes it. And so he's sitting there reading one day, reading very quickly because he's so brilliant now. And somebody else is standing there and he's just kind of doing like this. And there's a pencil on the table and the pencil's rolling back and forth as he's just kind of going like this. You're just not even paying any attention to it. Just kind of, like you shake your foot or something. Just kind of like, and the pencil's rolling. And the other person says, how do you do that? How do you make that do that? And he goes, oh, you don't make it. You ask it. And I just think that is the coolest thing because that's what it is. That's what you're doing when you're not asking the pencil, but you're asking the vibrations to vibrate the way you want them to vibrate. You're asking the molecules, the atoms to vibrate the way that you want them to vibrate. And that's how everything is created. Oh, and I know it's just a movie. It was just a silly movie and he died because what really happened to him is he had a brain tumor. So anyway, spoiler. Pardon me. So I know that goes pretty deep. And I usually try to keep Woo Wednesdays a little more superficial, but it's a good, that was a way that we went from how do I connect with my angels and guides? And what if there's a dark energy? All the way to this is what it all is. And so I hope that answers your questions. Okay. I love the bright light during meditation. I love that. That's wonderful. Selassie says, yes. All right. I'm going to wrap it up and give you back an extra 12 minutes of your day. Any last thoughts or questions?
I don't have any questions. Maybe closing thoughts, comments. Thank you so much for, I don't want to say putting me on the spot in reading.
I did, didn't I?
In reading my cards. No, it's fine because in the military, it's like, hey, chief, you have something to say, and it's like, you kind of come up on a whim. But I guess building back up my confidence is what I'm saying. Thank you so much for building back that confidence. And maybe this whole time I never lost the connection, right? Maybe like you said, I was just been out of alignment because the way my energy's been flowing lately with work, and then just needing to center myself back to my true essence of who I am, which I can be very masculine in my military career, but I can still have that balance in being connected with spirit. I just
It's all
wanted to
about the
say
balance.
thank you for that.
You're so welcome. And I'm sorry I put you on the spot, but at the same time, I'm kind of tearing up while you talk about that. So I got a chill that I feel like it was just so meant to be. It was what you needed. And I was honored to be a part of that. So thank you. All right. I have shuffled our good news only cards, and I'm going to give you a good news only card for your day. And this is something for you to look forward to. Okay. So let's see what we've got. Fun. Beautiful. I love it. So now if you have your own cards, you can interpret it as you feel makes sense or see how that plays out in your day. This is something to look forward to. So I'm going to try to give you something that's a little more specific than just fun. It feels like for both of you and for those of you who see this past, present, future in the recording or anything, this is for you when you see it. This is about something during your work day that is going to just feel fun. You're going to come to a moment in your work day that you just go, this is so much fun. This is the part of my job I love the most. And it may be with other people, it may not. So I personally look at that as like, oh, so this must mean I'm going to be writing or giving a reading or something today. I'm really looking forward to that. And when you look for the good, guess what you find? So I'm going to leave y'all with that thought. And thank you both for being here. And I hope we will have a little bigger but still intimate group next week. So tell your friends, and I'll see you then. Until next time, I remain your Mojo Medium. See you soon. Bye bye.